Rhode Island is located along the east coast of the United States. It shares its land borders with two states, Connecticut to the west and Massachusetts to the north and east. Rhode Island has a small maritime border with New York. It is the smallest state in the United States. Rhode Island is only about 48 miles long and 37 miles wide. The extreme compactness of area, proportionally large population, and economic activity have tied it closely to its neighboring states. In addition, Rhode Island's intimate connection to the sea, including more than 400 miles of coastline, is the basis of its nickname, the Ocean State. The state's capital is Providence. The state has got only 5 counties. Roger Williams founded the first permanent white settlement in Rhode Island at Providence in 1636 on land purchased from the Narragansett Indians. Forced to flee Massachusetts because of persecution, Williams established a policy of religious and political freedom in his new settlement. Other leaders advocating freedom of worship soon established similar communities on either side of Narragansett Bay. These communities united, and in 1663 King Charles II of England granted them a royal charter, providing for a greater degree of self-government than any other colony in the New World, and authorizing the continuation of freedom of religion. The early settlers were mostly English, with many drawn to the colony by the guarantee of religious freedom. The early settlers were allowed to own land that was bought from the Native Americans. Fishing and trade flourished in addition to a sound livestock industry and the more traditional agricultural products. Until the American Revolution, Newport was the commercial center of the colony, thriving on the triangle trade in rum, slaves, and molasses. Rhode Island was the first colony to call for a Continental Congress, which it did in 1774, and the first state to renounce its allegiance to the British Crown, which it did in May 1776. After the American Revolution, during which it was heavily occupied and contested, Rhode Island became the fourth state to ratify the Articles of Confederation, which it did on the 9th of February 1778. Because certain of its citizens favored a weaker central government, it boycotted the 1787 convention that had drafted the United States Constitution, which it initially refused to ratify. It finally did ratify it on the 29th of May, 1790, the last of the original 13 states to do so. The western two-thirds of Rhode Island is part of the New England upland, with hills rising as high as 800 feet above sea level. The Narragansett, or seaboard, lowland comprises coastal lowlands and islands that are below 200 feet in elevation. The highest point in the state is Jeremoth Hill, 812 feet high, near North Forest. Narragansett Bay is one of the largest bays and estuaries in the northeast U.S. and covers roughly 15% of Rhode Island's total area. Nearly all of Narragansett Bay lies within Rhode Island, with only a small portion at the mouth of the Taunton River, contained within nearby Massachusetts. The state's territory includes Block Island, about 10 miles south of the mainland, and several islands in Narragansett Bay, including Connecticut, Prudence, and Rhode Islands. The Blackstone River is the largest of Rhode Island's rivers and by far the most important to its history. But the state contains very little of the Blackstone's watershed area. Most of the watershed lies north of Rhode Island, in the large valley surrounding Worcester, Massachusetts. In Rhode Island, a steep, narrow river valley contains the Blackstone's waters as they flow south from Woonsocket to Pawtucket, where they enter the bay. The state has a humid continental climate with winds predominantly from the west. Marine influence are discernible in differences between coastal and inland locations. The average monthly temperature is 29 degrees Fahrenheit in January and 71 degrees Fahrenheit in July. The average annual temperature is 50 degrees Celsius and the average precipitation is about 46 inches per year. The major weather characteristic is variability, with extreme weather conditions such as tropical storms, including occasional hurricanes, ice storms, and heavy snow. There are 39 cities and towns in Rhode Island. Major population centers today result from historical factors. Development took place predominantly along the Blackstone, Seacon, and Providence rivers with the advent of the weather-powered mill. Providence is the base of a large metropolitan area. The largest municipalities in the state are Providence, Cranston, Warwick, and East Providence. The United States Census Bureau estimated Rhode Island's population was 1,059,000 people on the 1st of July, 2020. In 2021, the real gross domestic product of Rhode Island was $54.2 billion US. This is an increase from the previous year when the state's real GDP stood at $51.4 billion US. In 2019, the per capita real gross domestic product of Rhode Island was $52,000.